Well, hello there, everybody out there in Flosstube world. This is Vicki, aka the Virginia Stitcher, coming to you with my Flosstube video number 42. It is July 5th, 2023, and it is a hot and humid day here in Virginia. July came in like July does. As soon as it turned July, the humidity and the heat came with it. So we're getting our 90-degree days, 90 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know what that comes to in Celsius. I'm sitting on a pillow, so I'm trying to get myself adjusted here because I'm on wood flooring or laminate. I don't know what it's called, what kind of flooring this is. It's not real wood. And I'm in my basement, so I'm trying to get myself situated on my pillow because there's no way I'd be able to sit on the hard floor for probably going to be an hour or so. Because guess what? I have a fully finished object, an FFO. I cannot believe it. So I finished this piece. Oh man, I gave away the chart already. This was a piece. Let me show it to you. I went and I sent this off to Hobby Lobby, and they called me the other day and said it was ready. So I was so excited, and I wanted to show you guys. This was a piece that was started back at StitchCon in 2021. And with my friends Madeline and Cindy, and we all purchased this together at Keepsakes and bought we all did our own variations on this, and this was my variation. We purchased it and started it in 2021, and then we went to StitchCon of 2022 and rang the bell as a finish. And now finally in 2023, a year later, I have an FFO. I finally went and had it framed. So this is called Quaker Study by Kathy Barrick. I don't know if it's under the Carriage House Samplings. I think it might be, but it's by Kathy Barrick. And for all these little ninja stitches, these little teeny scattered stitches around the larger motifs in the center, I put beads. So I'm going to bring this in closer and show you guys so you can see the beads in my project. I used one thread. This is a ThreadWorks thread, and I can't remember the color, what the number was. Here we go. It is all finished. And the fabric is a 16 count Aida, and it's called All the Things, and I think it's by Fiber on a Whim. This piece. So here we go. I have an FFO. I'm so excited. So at some point I need to figure out kind of a layout here in the craft room and figure out where I'm going to hang some things, and I'll get this one hung. But because I want to have a sampler wall. So here's a piece that's going to go on my sampler wall, and I just love it. I didn't put any glass in it, but one thing I did like that Hobby Lobby did, they go ahead and they put a wire on the back so you can hang it, and they put these little bumpers down at the bottom so you don't scratch up your wall. But here we go. I am so happy. I'm so excited. I don't get many FFOs. As you all know, if you've been following me for a while, you know that. And then I also have a finished object. Something I just finished just the other day. Probably 2-3 days ago, I finished this piece. And let me get all the information for this one for you guys. This one's by Prairie Schooler, and it's called a Prairie Schooler Village. And I have my notes on what I stitched this one on and everything. This one's another 16 count piece of Aida in the color Milk Chocolate. And this is the Prairie Schooler Village. And I have that finished. Ding, 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 ring the bell. There you go. I'm gonna put a board behind this just in case there's any see-through. And I actually went ahead and pressed this. Since it is finished, I will put it in my under the bed box, and it'll sit there until I figure out a frame for this piece. There is my Prairie Schooler Village by the Prairie Schooler. I started this piece back on December of 2020, like at the end of December after Christmas of 2020. So this was about 2.5 years in the making. 2.5 years, it's insane. Because it's not that big of a piece. You see some of the big pieces I work on. So there you go. So that is 16 count Aida in the color Milk Chocolate. And what I liked about the Milk Chocolate is the white colors pop really nice off of that Milk Chocolate color. So there's my finish. I don't know if I have any much, I just used the called for DMCs. So it's a very standard piece. There's no overdyes. It's a DMCs that they call for. I didn't switch anything up. And I just put it on a 16 count Aida. So that is that finish. Set it over there nicely where it won't get too wrinkled. Put it over there with my other finish. And then I had a partial finish. I cannot believe it. I have a FFO, a fully finished object, a finished object, and a partial finished object. This one is my Christmas Ad Hoc Run Hollow. I'm sure you guys have seen this one. And this is this one's a Carry Tale Samplings. I want to say Marty Barrick is the one that designs the Huck Runs, though, not Kathy. But I'm not absolutely positive. I'm not sure. But this is Christmas Ad Hoc Run Hollow. And I started this one probably almost 2 years ago. I saw it at Keepsakes when I went there for StitchCon of 2021. I saw the model stitched up and it was gorgeous. And that just took me over the edge and I needed to get it. So what I was working on this one, I had this block finished. So I was working on this block. And I also wanted to go ahead and take all of these blocks, the outlines, and grid them in. Go ahead and get them all stitched in. So I have the bones. And then I can just go in if I feel like stitching this one next or this one, I can. And I'm assured that it fits on my piece of fabric nicely and all of that. Let me get it. So I was able to come in and finish gridding putting in all of the boxes. And that alone, let me back up here, is a lot of stitching. So I have all of the blocks stitched in, outlined. And I had already had this one finished. So I had been working on this second block right here. Let me see if I can get it in front of the camera for you guys. So that took a lot of days. When I looked at, I was using this one to stitch on while I was watching TV in the evenings with my husband. And I usually stitch for 2 or 3 hours in there with him, you know. So I first was doing all of the blocks, doing all of the outlining. And it looks like I worked on this pretty much solid every evening from June 1st all the way to June 24th before I finished this block here. Because at first I was spent a good week or so, almost 2 weeks, just putting all those blocks in. And on the second block here, I already had the gate stitched in at the bottom, and I had probably about a third of this house done, and a little bit of the grass filled in, or the snow or whatever this is supposed to be, over on this side. So I needed to still come in, finish filling in all of that house, all of that grassy snow area, all of the peacocks, this design, this motif. So there was a lot of stitching. There's a lot. Because you figure if this is a 90 by 90 inch space that you're stitching inside of, if you were to, I don't know, what do you times 90 by 90? That's how many stitches would be in it, minus this little bit that's not filled in up here. But all of this is complete fill-in. So there is my partial finish. I got one block finish on Christmas Ad Hoc Run Hollow. And I've been watching Welcome Stitchery, Sips and Whips and Sips or something like, with Justine and Shelly. And Shelly has finished Hoc Run Hollow. She just recently did. So she sent it off to the framer. I was just watching them this morning. So she should have that back from the framer the next time they probably show their video. And I'm curious to see how hers is looking all stitched, all framed up and everything, because I'm sure it is beautiful. And I know she's excited to have that one done, because I think she wanted to get that one done before she started another hawk run. She's better than me. I started a bunch of hawk runs. That's not the only hawk run I have going. In fact, you'll see another hawk run that I've been working on also. So those were all my finishes. Let me get this all back in its bag. So I was able to get that completed, and I was so happy to get that done. I was like, I'm going to keep working on this until I get that block finished, because I thought I at least want to get a block finished on this one. So I'll get all this stuff out of my way. Excuse me a moment. Okay, the other piece that I was working on before the Christmas at Hawk Run Hollow that I was working on in the TV room was my All-American, and I had showed it to you guys. And this is All-American by Primrose Cottage Stitches. I'll take it out of its plastic bag. This one's just in a plastic bag. And it looks like this. Kind of like that, I guess. And I had some of the stitching done, but in the month of June, I also picked it up and was working on it, still working on it, and did some more on this one. This one is on a piece of Laurel Green 28 count Lugana, and I know this one's going to be see-through. So it's an even weave, and I'm using the called for DMCs, and I'm switching in the one red color on this one. There are basically, I think, 3 reds, 3 blues, and the white. But since I had showed it to you last, I came in and I did down here. Got the red, white, and in. Because I think I had all of this across the top here. That's what I had before. Excuse the creases, the wrinkles. It's been folded up in its bag. These are fun stitches. These Primrose Cottage stitches. They go fast. Because this was a new start back in May. And I worked on it some in May and some in June. But I switched out the one red color. I think it was supposed to be Louisiana Hot Sauce by Weeks. Yes. And I switched it. It says you need 2 skeins of that color. And I went with what I had in my stash. And this one is, wait a minute. Maybe I'm lying to you guys again. Maybe I actually used the called for. Oh my gosh, let me get my glasses on and read this tiny little letter. Oh, it is Louisiana hot sauce, so never mind. So I'm using all of the called for. Don't listen to me, because I'll tell you guys stories. It's just, oh my goodness. I've got so many things that I'm working on that I forget which ones I'm working on with the called for, which ones I'm working on with ones I've pulled from my stash. Because I just get them and I start stitching on them and forget which ones, you know, what threads were actually supposed to be used and which ones I switched in, and whole 9 yards. So let me get it back in its bag and try not to crinkle too much. Try not to make too much racket. So that was that piece. I wanted to show it to you guys again because I had been working on it a little bit more since my last video. So I did get a little bit more progress on that one. This next piece is a new start that I started in June. I actually started this one on, where is it? I don't know. Oh, the 1st of June. So on June 1st, I started Primavera in City, by Crocetta Agogo. And I love these colors in this one. This one is so spring. I mean, it's spring in the city is what it translates to. And I just loved all the pinks and the dainty, pretty colors in this one. So I picked this one up, started it, and worked on it a couple of days. I don't know, I might have worked on it, yeah, maybe a couple of days. And what am I stitching this one on? I got my notes. This is a 32 count piece of Lugana in the color taupe. So this is just not an overdyed, it's just a standard piece of fabric. And I am using all of the called for nope. I am using, I pulled from Stash. So I'm in the Cottage Garden Threads of the Month Club with Garon Stitchery. So I've pulled a bunch of the Cottage Garden threads that I had in my stash that look similar to the colors that were being called for. I pulled up a Victorian motto out of my stash. So I was stitching from Stash for this one, but look at these bright, beautiful colors. Very spring, very pretty. So those are the colors I'm using. I'm not using the called for. And like I said, this is 32 count Lugana in the color taupe. It's on a big piece of fabric, and I don't actually need it all the way open because, like I said, I only worked on it a couple of days. So there's not a whole lot on it yet, but there we go. I can even fold it down more. I worked down here on this little flower shop. It's down in the lower left-hand corner of the piece. Oh, and excuse the dangly thread. There we go. So look at those bright, beautiful spring colors. I love it. Sometimes when I want to do some spring stitching, I really want to, some bright spring colors to work on. So I was working, I don't know, it's hard to see in the design, but down here in just this little, I got this one awning over this one window and the grass down here. So in that flower shop down at the bottom, that's where I started. So that is that piece. That's a new start. This one's going to be fun. I'm definitely going to be pulling it up, in the springtime, if not at other times of the year, to work on this one. I like having pieces for each season. I like to have some beautiful spring, bright colored ones, and with flowers and bunnies and things like that. And this does have cute little bunnies all around it. I don't know if it's hard. It's kind of a small design, but this bunny's over here watering. I think he's watering the plants. And then you got one up on a ladder that has a carrot on top of it, watering the top of the flower. This little girl bunny up here. And it's just so adorable and cute. So that is Primavera and Sitia. Not real sure how to say that. But, and then I pulled up a piece that's been a whip that I've had for a little while. And I didn't get very much done on this one. I think it is harder for me to see on this darker fabric, I think is what my problem is. And so I don't work on it too long. My eyes get tired and I stop. I think it's very, very pretty. I still want to finish it. I'm still trying to plug away on it a little here and there, but this one is called Like a Cherry Blossom by Stitches Through the Years. You can find her on Etsy, and it is right here, Stitches Through the Years. And at first I was stitching it on a piece of Storm Ada, but I've since have switched because I didn't like how the colors were looking on that one. I really wanted what I loved in this piece. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it in the design, but all of these white cherry blossoms, they border the whole piece. And I thought they were so pretty, and I really wanted them to pop when for my stitched piece. So I picked out a piece of 28 count Lugana in the color Twilight by Picture This Plus. I think it's Picture This Plus. Yeah, it is. And I stitched a little more on this, but I didn't get very far. But I'll go ahead and show you guys what I got going on here. And I've got a dangly thread again, because I'm just having, I don't know, I'm just having a hard time seeing this one. But look how those cherry blossoms are really popping off the fabric. See, I have another piece of dangly thread. The lettering is more of a gray color, so it's kind of blending in a little bit. You can see the letter A there. And these cherry blossoms are finished, except for the larger ones have some straight stitches in the middle that I have not done yet. But I just love, this is true to color back here. I love the way this piece is going to be beautiful when it's done. I just need to probably work on it earlier in the day when my eyes aren't tired or anything, and try to get some stitching on it. I have an ot light in here in my stitching room, in my craft room, that gives me really great light, and I have really good readers. Like these, I think are only 2.5 or 3, but I wear 4.0 readers that I order off of Amazon when I'm stitching, so that I can really see my stitching, and I'm still having an issue. And this is only a 28 count. I can't imagine people who stitch on the really large counts, the 40s and 46s, and especially in a color, or if it's opalescent or anything like that. I can't imagine, because I'm struggling with the 28 count. And I don't have bad eyes, but I do have, you know, 60-year-old eyes. So the next piece I pulled out, it looks like I was in a spring kick still at the beginning of June. Still stitching on some spring pieces. The next one I pulled up is by the Blue Flower. Let's see if I don't have to take this out of the plastic maybe. And this one is called Moonlight Sampler. And this one is the one I like to call my Goldilocks piece, because this is the one that I had restarted. I started up in here, and I probably stitched this owl 3 times, and some of the flowers 2 times or something, you know, trying to find the perfect piece of fabric, because I want my, these lighter colors to really pop off of my fabric. Plus it's Moonlight Sampler, so I know it's supposed to be more maybe nighttime, because you see the fireflies, an owl, and the lunar moth over by the moon, you know, animal, you know, that's more nighttime, nocturnal. So I finally found my piece of fabric on the 3rd try, the 3rd go around. And this is an unnamed piece of fabric, because this is by Jody Favish with the Steel City Stitchers. She does one-offs. She doesn't name her fabric. She just dyes them and sells them. So you're not going to get a name for it. But this is a 28 count piece of Lugana by the Steel City Stitchers. I'm pretty sure this is a 28. I don't know if I wrote this down anywhere. I don't think so. But I picked this up and it's looking gorgeous. And I got this far. So I had this stitched over here. So I came in and I stitched this and all of this over to this side when I picked it up this time. So this little bit of white here is the beginning of the moon, the crescent moon. And I just love it. I didn't finish these flowers yet over here. Started on them, but I didn't get them finished, and I didn't get the moon finished. But that's where I am on Moonlight Sampler. And I am not using all the called for this one either. And on every single one of these pieces I have showed you, I stitch, and I will show you because I always forget to say it. I stitch, on Ada it's 2/1, and on Lugana it's 2/2. 2 threads over 2 fabric threads. And on Ada it's 2 threads over each Ada square. So that's where I am on that one, because I like to work with 2 threads. I know some people don't, but I do. I prefer it, actually. I love the loop start. It's just one of my favorites ways to stitch. And I'm stitching with some of the called for and some not. I think I switched in, these purples because I wanted a little brighter purple to show up on my darker blue fabric. And I can't remember which other ones. I think that might be it. And I think I subbed in this green. And these are all Victorian mottos that were just in my stash from a while back. So I switched in these colors, I do know. And then, so it's a mix of the called fors, overdyes, and DMCs, and some that I picked myself. I just go and I shop in my stash. Because I have a decent sized stash of Victorian motto, and now I have a decent sized stash of cottage garden threads. Well, they're not usually called for on charts, those threads. So when I'm kitting from my stash, I usually will try to pick out of those if I don't have the overdyed color, or even if I have the DMC for it, I might want to switch it out for for one of my Victorian mottos or my cottage garden threads, just to, jazz it up or do something a little different. This one was a new start, but I did get quite a bit done on this one. This one is a new, fairly new chart. This one just came out this last market, and this was Teresa Kogut. It's called Remember Me. It looks like this. And I was watching the camping stitcher, Chris the camping stitcher, on Flosstube, and she has done quite a bit over here on the this flower border, and it was just looking so pretty, and I said, I want to stitch that one so bad. So I went ahead and started it. I thought, I have everything for it, so why not? And I loved these flowers. In fact, I was so into it. I sat and I stitched on this one, I don't know, 3 or 4 days, and got quite a bit done on this one. So this one I am stitching on a 28 count piece of Lugana in the color Under the Mistletoe. I don't know who it's by though. And I am stitching, let me make sure. No, I am switching in some of the colors. That's right, because I'm doing this, either it's because I'm stitching from stash and I didn't have the called for, but a couple of the colors, the used brick and desert sand. Oh yeah, I think I didn't like, they were a little duller on my piece of fabric that I picked, so I picked a different color. Like this one is, I think these were the called for colors right here, and look how very close in color they looked. And I didn't like that necessarily. And so I must just have all my threads in here. I do. I pulled a bunch of DMCs around old paper bobbins that I had in my stash. You like my fancy way I'm storing my thread. But I did pick these 2 colors instead. I just wanted a little more variegation in my 2 kind of rosy colors in my piece. So I switched those in instead in place of. So my reds are a little bit different, my orangey reds. And like I said, this is Under the Mistletoe. It's an even weave. And I want to say, I don't know who I can't remember who I ordered this from, but I don't think they had, who the dyer was. It doesn't look like an overdyed though. It just looks straight flat color. It doesn't have mottling in it at all. But this is where I am. Get on with it and show you guys. So that's how far I got, and I love it. Because what I am looking forward to getting to is this little house and trees over here. It is this whole section. So I've got, this kind of in right here, and I've worked on putting some of this border in. So now I can come in and start filling in over here in the middle of the piece and get that house and the trees in. But this is where I am on Remember Me by Teresa Kogut. Loving it. Oh, and because I picked a green piece of fabric, because my only thing that I was wondering is I was like, well, this flower, I think there's 2 of them maybe in the whole design. Yes. There's 2 of these same flowers. I've stitched one. There's one more. And it's this one right here. All the outline is stitched and the red parts are stitched. But all that looks like a cream color here is unstitched on the design. But I picked up the lightest color. I think it's the same one in here. I'm not sure. And just filled it in because it didn't look right. It looked kind of faded out, and I wanted it to still kind of stand out, even though I'm stitching it on, because I'm stitching it on green. and I didn't want the flower to kind of be greenish. So, because in the model, it's stitched on kind of a more of a off-white type of fabric. So there's one flower here like that, and then another one over here on this side. And they're not stitched in, but I stitched mine in. So I knew I'd have to do that because I'm stitching on green fabric, but that's fine because it's just those two flowers and the rest of it's all filled in. So, and we'll work with the green fabric to me. It was, you know, it's just my personal preference. I like to, you know, it's your stitching, make it your own. And I do that on occasion, you know, change things up, change my threads, change the color of fabric. I didn't use an off-white. I used a very light bluey green color. And I'm loving it. So, and like I said, just, you know, I pull threads that will work on my fabric and things like that sometimes. Sometimes I stick with exactly the pattern, exactly the called for colors. I don't usually stitch it on the exact called for fabric. I a lot of times don't because most of the time it's calling for maybe a 40 count linen by R&R or Lakeside linens and things like that. And I don't think R&R or Lakeside or those companies dye even weave or Aida. So I normally will pick my own. I just pick my own fabric. This next piece is Patriotic. Then I go, okay, now I'm feeling summery, so I was starting to get into some Patriotic pieces. And this one is Liberty's Welcome by Plum Street Samplers. I'm gonna see if it'll show well enough. I do have an overhead light and some windows in front of me. This is Liberty's Welcome by Plum Street Samplers. And I had started this one, I don't remember if it was last summer when I had started this one, but I pulled it up and I wanted to work some more on this one. So I worked a couple of few days on this one because I love Plum Street. Plum Street is probably, Plum Street, Teresa Kogut. I love the Hawk Runs. Those are kind of my jam. I love a lot of different designers, but I think the ones that, you know, when they come out with a design, I'm like, oh, gotta have. I love Blackbird, but I think Plum Street has got to be one of my top. This one is being stitched on a piece of 28 count. Let me double check. Oh, come on, Vicki. Did I not keep a sheet of paper? It's a piece of, hold on for a second. This is, I think this is 32 count, maybe platinum or wheat, Lugana. And here I am, here's where I am on this one. So I had come in and I already had the roof done and I already had the eagle finished. I finished him the last time I pulled it up in the 4th of July, 1776. And I think I had most of this already done and some of this. So I came, oh, and I had the star done. So I came and I finished, pretty much finished this border down, did this urn. There's a plant that comes out of this and started on the grass because that grass is going to be crazy. And I started on the front of the house. I did these two windows and I started filling in with the color that I picked for the siding on the house. This blue color I know is a different color. I believe the green is a different color and this white is a different color. And of course the roof was a different color also. If you look back in my videos from last year, at StitchCon I was working on this last year on the roof. And I talked about how I blended a bunch of threads together to get the roof to look like that. So if you want to go back and look at a video I probably filmed either the end of June last year or July, I talked about how I did the roof there. But loving how this is coming out. And like I said, the colors that I switched in. I'm loving the blue here. I think that's a cottage garden color. It's very variegated. not sure I like the urn being that blue, but I'm leaving it for right now. Okay, I always can change my mind. I want to get some more stitched around it first. And then this color here for the siding, I know I switched out in the grass. And I switched those. I went when I was at, because I was working on this at StitchCon last year, and I went to Keepsakes and I looked at their yarn, and I knew I was going to need a bunch of skeins, and I picked out White Lightning for the house siding by Weeks Dye Works, because it has just a little bit of gray to white variegation in it, and you can see it when I stitched it. And I'm stitching, I normally stitch vertical. That's just normally the way I stitch most of the time. But I'm purposely stitching horizontal so that it kind of looks a little bit more like slats. But you can see the variegation when I stitch it more than when I'm showing it to you on the skein. So that's White Lightning by Weeks Dye Works. And then the blue is a Cottage Garden thread color, and it's called Bonnie Brook. So I switched the blue that they had called for. So you can see the variegation. It goes light to dark here. So this one is called Bonnie Blue, or Bonnie Brook, I'm sorry. It's a pretty beautiful blue color. Love it, love it. And then I switched in, of course I've got some Victorian mottos in here. When I get to like the flag colors and things like that, that's going to be in this Victorian motto Twilight Time. And the reds are in Aster by Victorian motto. So that color is Aster. And what else do I have? I have several. I have Antique Winter Rose. I can't remember where this one, I'm using this one by Victorian motto. Oh, but look at that. But the green I'm using instead is this Bayberry for the grass. It's Bayberry by Gentle Arts. Another green that I'm using in the piece is a Victorian motto that I pulled out. So this one's another one that was stuff that I pulled from Stash, and I went and I purchased. I wanted to make sure I had enough for the house and the grass, because this grass on this piece and this house is really big. You can see how big the house is, and all of this grass. I wanted to make sure I had enough of that color green and enough of the whitish color, white gray color for the house. So I picked up, like I said, a bunch of skeins of Bayberry by Gentle Arts for the grass and White Lightning for the front of the house by Weeks Dye Works. So those I know you can, if you wanted to, know what my conversion was, you could switch your house to the colors like that. So there is my Liberty's Welcome. And I'm loving it. Like I said, I love Plum Street. Paulette Stewart, she's a wonderful designer, very talented. So that's where I got to on this piece. And then I set it aside to, I think I set it aside to work on this next one that is, well, I call them start-alongs for me, but it's a stitch-along that Pam from Just Keep Stitching started on June 11th. For her 30th anniversary of the date that she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And she is calling it #Pam's Survival Sal. So I picked up that piece, and I only got a chance to work on it a day. I think I was busy around then, because like I said, I've been doing, if you watched my last video, I'm getting a Flosstube itchy nose. I think some of the threads are flying around, the fibers off of the threads, they get in my nose. If you watched my last video, or even maybe the last couple, I talked about how we're doing some renovations in the house. We did all the flooring down here. Well, this past week or so, whatever, we've been working on, we've had the carpet replaced. So we had workers in the house doing carpet and different things. So I had to clear out all the bedrooms upstairs and get all the things put aside and all of the closets and all of that stuff. So I was busy with that. So I only got a chance to work on this piece one day, and what Pam is doing, and I'm doing the same piece she is for her Pam's Survival Sal, is by Praiseworthy Stitches, and it's called Courage. And I happened to have the chart. So I thought, I'm going to start it. Because I know several people that have been affected by cancer. Not just Pam, and not just my dad, who passed away from brain cancer, but several. In fact, I still have friends that are dealing with it. So I am stitching this one, and I said I wanted to stitch it. It came with a chart in here showing the different colors for the different types of cancers. And I am stitching mine in lavenders, purples. I'm sorry, my husband's doing weed trimming, like a weed whacker, doing the trimming along our fence edge and patio edge in the back. So I don't know if you can hear him. But here I am. This one is on a piece of Silvery Moon Lagana, I think it is. And I'm using a variation of lavendery purples, and that's only how much I got. I just worked one day on it. I just worked on the 11th on it. Whoops, I think it goes this way. Worked one day on it. See, it's got a dangly thread. Sorry about that. See if I can pull it away from the stitching. This one is, I think that one's just a DMC color. And then this one that I'm doing this large motif here, I'm using this Cottage Garden Amethyst for this one. And it is looking beautiful. Love it. So this is a light gray fabric and my lavender threads. I thought it would go pretty together. So that's how far I am on hashtag Pam's Survival Sal. So I started up here. So I'm working on this. I did that heart, and I'm working on this really big motif here. And I'm not going to put the alphabet in. I've already been writing a list of everybody, friends and family that have been affected by cancer, have had cancer or died, passed away from cancer. And so I've got to think of, how I want to put all of the alphabet in there. And I don't even think, sadly, I think even the amount of alphabets in here, I might have to squeeze more in, sadly. So that's where I am with that one. Let's see. The next piece is another stitch along, another Sal. And this one, I couldn't think of who was doing the Sal. I want to say it was, I don't remember who's doing the Sal. But Primrose Cottage Stitches, the Welcome to the North Pole. And they have it where in June you do the, was it June? Yes. June you do the top section, July, August, September, October, and November. So that you'd have it finished by December. I am already behind. I did start this. I did work on it some more since I last showed it to you guys, but I'm still not finished with that top section. And now it is July. So I'm still not done with the June section. But here I am on this one. I am stitching this one on a 32 count Vintage Country Mocha. And there's where I am. I think since I showed it to you guys, it came in and I did lettering, I believe. Because I only worked on this one. Let me look at my notes here. Welcome to the North Pole. I worked on it 2 more days on June 9th and 10th. Well, okay, this was my June stitching. I started this as a mania piece, and I got this part done up here. And then in June, I came and I stitched and worked on this, the lettering, the words. I still have to finish the word pole, welcome to the North Pole. And then there are 2 poles and some snow and snowflakes. So I still have to end the rest of the, all of the little ornaments down there. And so that's where I am. And welcome to the North Pole. And I'm going to do some more stitching on that. That's why it's still in the Q-snap, because the ones that are in the Q-snap, I'm hoping to still be able to pick up and do some more stitching on. But we will see. This next piece, I pulled back out. Started this a little while back. This one is by, and I don't have a really great picture, as I ordered it off of her site, and I got like a PDF download. But this one is called, this is By the Bay Needle Arts, and it's called Tidal Rivers, All Scenes. Now it looks like that. So I think when it first came out, it came out in sections, and I want to say there were, I don't remember if there were 4 or 5 or 6 sections to this. You know, it would come out with just like one part, and then you could stitch it as one part. One part looked like a finish if you wanted it to. But I'm doing all scenes. I'm doing the whole thing, the whole shebang, the whole kit and caboodle. I'm doing the whole thing because, you know, why not? So I am doing this one on a piece of, is this Whisper? Which gray is this one? Yes, Whisper, 28 count Lugana in the color Whisper by Zweigart. And so it's not an overdyed. Let me get this all unfolded to my spot. I'm loving this piece. It's fun. It's a fun stitch. It's pretty much full coverage except for the sky, but it is gorgeous and I'm having fun with it because even though it's full coverage, it's an easy stitch. Oh my gosh, what am I doing here? That's what happens when you have tablecloths for pieces of fabric. I won't need all of this fabric. But here I am. Oh, let me take my glasses off so I can see. Here I am on this one. So when I had picked this up, I had already had this red house, this green part here, and the water, and this tree. This tree still needs a back stitch that does the branch that goes up. But I put in a couple of clouds because I wanted to make sure my clouds would show up. I picked, I think, B5200 or something. What did I pick for the white? Because I needed something because this is a light gray color. Oh no, I had one skein of Snowball by Classic Colorworks. It says Crescent Colorworks, because that's what they used to be called. So this is an old skein, but I had one of Snowball, and that looked like a bright enough white, and it does, it works. Because I'm only going to really need that I'm only switching it in for the clouds. So I had come in and I stitched all of this yellowy color here and then all of this down in here. So all of this and the clouds. A couple of clouds I put in. This is only the top half. So this is one page. There's a row of pages that go across the top of it, and I think there's maybe about 4 pages. I think the first page ended like here, and I'm on the second page. So there's 2 pages here, but it's the top. There's still this much more on the bottom that we'll have, like right here is the very top of a sailboat mast. If you can see it. I didn't stitch this in yet. Those are empty spaces for a buoy that's bobbing in the water there. Didn't get that stitched in yet. But this still has, oops, I put it back in the plastic already. So I've only stitched, so you could, the top half of that, the top, very top of that mast. So I still have, there's a bottom part. So I've stitched this top part up here. Hopefully it's not glaring too badly for you guys. So that's where I am on this one. And like I said, I always stitch with 2 threads. So there's 2 threads on this 28 count Lugana. And I had started this previously and I got a little bit done on it, and the fabric that I picked wasn't going to work because I wasn't going to have very much margin at all. So this one is a big piece. This is a ½ a yard. And so width-wise, it's going to work. Lengthwise, I'm not going to need all of that. So when I'm finished, I'll be able to salvage the bottom part for something else, to stitch something else on. So that's where I am on By the Bay Needle Arts Tidal Rivers, and I ordered it off of her website, By the Bay Needle Arts, and it was a automatic download PDF chart. One that you pay for and then you automatically can download it. Brenda Handwork Maniac is working on one of the pieces, the larger long one. Oh my gosh, that thing is gorgeous. I think I saw her stitching on hers, and that's what made me want to put that with that. Pull back out my By the Bay piece and stitch a little more on mine. Now, on the very first day of summer, June 21st, here in the Northern Hemisphere, I started one of my seasonal queens. I wanted to start the Summer Queen by Mirabilia. And she looks like this. And I was going back and forth over what fabric I wanted to stitch her on. I have a really light pink color that's called Blush that she would look absolutely gorgeous on, but she's not going to fit on that piece because my margins would be way too small. And that would mean, like, if you wanted to have a little space in your framing here, I wouldn't have had any because it was going to come right to the edges, and I didn't want to do that. You work on a big enough piece, you don't want to do that. So I picked out a 16 count piece of Ada in the color Moon Glow by Picture This Plus. And let me see if I can get which way is up on her. You know what? I'm not real sure right now. I always say, you know, I have to look at the chart and study it, and then I'll be able to tell. Oh, it's this way. So I did a middle start on her, and I thought her teal dress would look gorgeous on this piece of fabric. So that's where I am. I only worked, I think, a day or so on her. I think I might have worked a day and a half. I think I had some stitches that had to come out. But the color, this is true back here. It's a very goldy yellow color called Moon Glow by Picture This Plus. So I think she's going to be pretty on this. I really wished my pink fabric would have worked, but I think she's going to be gorgeous on this one too. So I didn't get very far on her because I think I had to start something else or something and work on something else or do something else or whatever, you know, life. But I got her started on the summer solstice, so she's good to go. Let me get it back in her plastic bag. Try not to have my stuff scattered everywhere. I wouldn't be able to figure out what floss goes in which project. Too easy. I think so. And that'd be like, where'd the pattern go for this one? I don't know what I did with it. And I'm getting quite a pile, so I'm kind of tossing them a little farther. This next piece is one that I started a while back, a couple of years ago. Love, 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 love this one. This one's by the Scarlet House, and it's called A Perfect World. In fact, my my banner for my Flosstube channel, if you ever click on my channel and go to my page, I guess, for it, you'll see this. You'll see that I, you know, this part of this that I had stitched is the picture for my banner. Sorry about flopping that around. Trying to figure out where the glare was coming, how to angle it to not have so much glare. But I had a bunch of this already done. I had this puppy dog, this tree done, and like the checkerboard across to, you know, here. And I switched this dog to a white dog for my little Molly girl. She's kind of white with a little cream in her, little caramel color. And then I'm going to switch, I was going to switch this dog here to the colors of my other dog, Maya. She's black and cream, but she looks black and gray now. But the top of her head is turned really white. And I thought, oh no, that white of the head will blend in with the white of this house. So I think I'm going to customize that dog to be like black and white for her. So I had come in and I was working up in here, getting some more of this done. This one is on a 16 count piece of Ada in the color Amazing Gray. And I'm going to need my board because I still have this one on the Q-Snap because I'm hoping to get some more work on this one, hopefully. we'll see. And that's where I am. So I had come in and I've done this plant, this small house here, and all of the gate stuff. But you can see I started a little white, I did a little white dog. They're missing their collars and the one stitch for their eye, because I'll come back and I'll do those later. When I have just a couple of stitches in a color, I wait till I have more of that color a lot of times, unless there's no any more of that color anywhere in the area, then I'll just go ahead and, you know, thread my needle and stitch a couple of stitches. But if I know that there's going to be, you know, this color again and all of the dog collars or whatever, and maybe something else up in here, I'll just wait and I'll thread my needle once and do those all at the same time. So in my piece, the piece ends here. I still have to do one more set of these flowers, this flower here and this flower like here, and fill it all in the black. And I'm using 310. I'm just using DMC black. I always get good coverage with black. I use 2 threads and it looks fine. So I'm loving this piece. This is so cute. You know, just have so many projects, so little time. There's so many things I want to stitch on and I love them. And so I just rotate through the best I can and hope to touch all of my pieces every year. And this next piece was one that I pulled up and worked on one day in my mania, because it was a piece that I had started in May, a previous May. So I picked it up and was working on it. But I didn't get very much work on it, so I pulled it up and worked on it one more day, which still wasn't that much. And this is by Ink Circles, and it's called Cercle Tiacaro. And I'm up in here. When I had picked this up in May to start working on it in Mania, I had a page finished. So I had a rectangle, an exact rectangle finished. And so I picked this up and I worked on it a little bit more. This is in a 16 count Aida in the color Tycho, Tycho, by Picture This Plus. I think I can just half the fabric and I won't have to have my board, hopefully. And no, wait a minute. There we go. There's the edge. And that's how much I got done on this one. I am using a Silks For You. You can find her on Etsy, and she may even have her own website, but it's Silks For You. And this color is PR. She numbers them all with a PR number. It's a variegated, beautifully variegated with blues and purples. Looks like this. This is half of the hank. I ordered a hank, and I think her hanks are, I don't know, maybe $30 US, something like that. And if you order a few, at least to the US anyway, I know it's free shipping. I think there's I want to say, because she's in Australia, but I thought I had her card in here. Yes. Silks For You. So if you want to screenshot that or jot that down, that is her information. And keep that card in here with my silk thread. And you get this, I'm just loving the variegation in it. It's beautiful. I'm just, you know, taking my 2 threads, threading my needle, and just stitching, going where the needle leads me. And this is how it's looking. So I love it. Love it. And this Tycho has very, 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 very soft colors in it. Soft pastels. It's barely noticeable. Overdyed. It's not heavily modeled or anything, but because I was using the variegated floss, I wanted a very soft background for it. I did not want the fabric and the floss to compete with each other. So I picked a fairly neutral piece of fabric for that one. And the next piece I pulled up. keep saying the next piece, the next piece. I know I've been saying that a lot. I don't know how many I worked on this month, in the month of June, but I worked on quite a bit. This next one is by Leela's Studios. Let's see if it doesn't glare too much, leaving it in the plastic. And it's called Let Freedom Ring. I had started this one a little while back. It's not a new start. I already had some stitched on it. I had done some of this flower. What I wanted to do when I picked it up, I think it was last summer, I wanted to, I started up here so I could figure out my border, figure out my margin. And I did a tiny bit of this border here. And then I started kind of doing the vine, and I did a little bit of the flowers and worked my way down to the basket that the flowers are in so that I could get down here and do a tree and get down to the building here. Because I wanted to really get in there. So I had some of this done. I had kind of just worked my way down. And I had this tree finished and this tree half finished. And I had this one wing of the building done. But I did not have this portico done. I did not have the trees finished. And I did not have any of this finished. I didn't have the bird in. I didn't have this border up here done. So I came in, and again, I'm stitching with 2 threads. I don't know if they're all the called for or not. Let me see what I'm stitching it on. I'm stitching it on a 28 count piece of Lugana in the color Laurel Green by Witchell. Even though it says Laurel Green, it looks tan, kind of a yellowy tan color to me. It does have, it's the same fabric I'm using for All American that I'm stitching. So it must look good for patriotic pieces to me. Let me fold this in half because I'm only stitched on half of this fabric so far. And there's where I am. And I still have a hangy thread. This is just a piece of thread right there. Sorry about that. Sometimes I stop and for the day and then I leave a hangy thread. So I come in and I finished stitching in this part of this twisted border there, and I finished filling in all of the flowers and leaves. I still have a flower like this, a pink flower here with a couple of leaves sticking over here to finish this flower basket, but I had filled in a lot of this, did the bird because he wasn't there, and came in and finished this tree and started this tree, did this portico with the bushes behind it because all I had was this building. There's a lot of back stitching. There's back stitching to still do for this building that I have not done yet. And then I started putting in the outline of the next part of the Independence Hall, the building. So it's kind of hard to see because they're all kind of light gray and white right now. I don't have the brick colors in there yet. But this is where I am on Let Freedom Ring. And I love this piece. This is going to be gorgeous when it is finished. This building, this Independence Hall in Philadelphia is just, I mean, look at that. And I was seeing, Heidi, Stitching Faye on Flosstube. She has finished this part over here on, she started over there. And that carriage, oh, and that horse, I can't wait to get to that part either. This whole thing, this whole piece is lovely. The Minutemen down here, the little colonial people, love it. And this Liberty Bell, it's beautiful. The way that she has it charted. So I've worked my way, like I said, I've now done most of this and this. So getting there. And 2 threads, and I am using the called for. There has been a lot of people that were working on this said they did not like the color Calico Kitty that the building is stitched in, because if you look, but I'm using it, and so is Heidi. You can see that there are tans, and then there are kind of rosy colors in here, right? So this part of the building, and I think the middle part will be done with the Calico Kitty also, but this color for the portico, the brick in here, is a DMC. The called for is a DMC color. but see how well it matches? This is more out in the sunlight. This is supposed to be more in shadow. And that's why she designed it that way, so that it would look like this is recessed in shadow a little more than the part of the building that's in the sunlight. And that's why the building has the variegation in the color. So the Calico Kitty is by Classic Colorworks, and it has the brown and the rosy variegation running through it. But I like it. I like the way it looks. I'm just going with it, letting it be organic and just stitch it in there the way she had charted it. So love this piece so far. Oh, I am going to definitely keep stitching on this one. It may only, you know, get picked. I definitely work on my Patriotic pieces in the summertime, but I do try to pick up pieces here and there through the year if I can, also that are seasonal, so that I'm not only stitching on them. In fact, right now it's, you know, a lot of people call this Jolly July stitching that they do. I have been picking up, I'm working on my Santa of the Forest. I've been stitching on him a little bit more. So I do come in and, you know, sometimes try to pick up seasonal pieces off season also to work on. Oops, let me sit this in there too. And I have this in a big bag. This is a big project. Even though, you know, it's just, and this one is by Lake House Stitch Company. And it's just a big vinyl fronted project bag. So that one's in a big bag. And then the last piece that I've been working on, and I had to take it off the Q-snap so you could see the whole thing, because I like, when I'm watching a Flosstube video, I like when they take it, if the whole piece is showing in the Q-snap, you know, like my Welcome to the North Pole, I don't worry about taking it out of the Q-snap because you can see it. That's everything I've stitched. There's nothing hiding in my folds and in the Q-snap. But if I've got it on a Q-snap and I'm going to show it to you guys and part of it is covered, then I will take it out of the Q-snap. So this one was on the Q-snap. I'm working on it in there while I'm watching TV in the evenings, and I think I've been working on it for, I don't know, the last 3 evenings. Yeah, 3 evenings. Pulled this one up because this is kind of a summary piece. This is my Shores of Hawk Run, and I've been working on the center block. I already had the lighthouse done. I already had the house here with the lady on the Widow's Walk. So I wanted to come in and get this big ship done. This is on a 16 count piece of Aida that I coffee and tea dyed myself. And then I gridded the whole thing in because that's what I wanted to do. And now all of my hawk runs that I'm working on right now are all blocked in. So I'll show it to you a little more up close. That's where I am. So I got the dolphin in. I've started on the water. I got the hull of the ship done and some of the sails. Let me show you what this looks like. So I still have quite a, bunch more sails to do, finish the water. But after that, it's just the anchor, the compass, and these words right here. I will wait for thee. And then after that block, I don't know where my whim will take me, what I want to stitch on next on this one. I am using all of the called for DMCs. I don't think I switched any on this one yet. And like I said, and 2 threads on a 16 count piece of Aida that I coffee and tea dyed myself using the Real Housewives of Cross Stitch, Priscilla and Chelsea. Their tutorial they did, I don't know, 3-4 years ago. So it has a little bit of mottling in it, but not a whole lot. The only thing I didn't do the flying seagulls here, and I might come back and do that. Not sure. Because at the time I was like, I don't know if I want those seagulls there or not. I do have this one little guy that's down on the rocks, but there are a few that are flying above the water, and I did not put them in yet. But all of the rest of this is finished. So far, that's my shores. So I had finished that block in Christmas at Hawk Run, and now I'm working on this center block. I don't know if I'll get it done this summer. because as I've told you guys before, if you've been seeing my other videos, I'm going to be doing a lot of traveling this summer. And I don't know what pieces I'm taking, but I don't think I'll be taking this because I don't know if I want to take really big pieces with me. And I don't know how much stitching I'm going to get done anyway this summer on my travels. So, and so now I can put it back on the Q-snap, work on that a little bit more because that's my plan. Okay, so that's everything I worked on in the month of June. That was my June wrap up. The only other thing I wanted to, oh yes, I had a commenter. I usually try to give you guys tips when I can on things. Not that I'm perfect, though. I have people ask me questions on how I stitch my things. So this is how I approach, how I stitch. And this is about beading. On your Mirabilias, lavender and lace, pieces like that have beading. How do I tackle my beading? So I wanted to just do that really quick. So this is a piece right here. This is a lavender and lace that, well, she's an ancient whip that I started a while back. She is on a scroll frame that was handmade years ago. So I don't have a place you can purchase this. This was a handmade scroll frame. And she's in here, so you can't see the whole thing. Her wings are finished and everything. So she's pretty much stitched. So the way I approach my Mirabilias, and she's a lavender and lace, this is Autumn Angel, is that I do all of the stitching first. So what I did is I came in and I stitched her up. And then now I've been filling in with this Water Lilies color that's a variegated color and trying to fill in these stitches here. It's like a bouquet that she's holding. So I have that left to still do. And then I'll have all of the gold. There's some gold metallic thread that goes in all of the spots that are left in her dress. So that will come in next. Okay. So next I will work on the metallic threads in her dress. And I think there's a little bit up here in her bodice maybe. And after I finish all of the stitching, then I do the beading. So if I don't always have them in a scroll frame. She's been in a scroll frame because that's how, I didn't have Q-snaps back then. 15, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. I only used a little 6-inch, I had a 6-inch plastic hoop I used that just had a little tension screw thing that, to tighten it. And I did all my stitching pretty much in that, except if it was a fancy stitch like this, a big angel, I didn't want her all creased up, so I had this scroll frame that somebody made for me, and I used it when I had a fancy person, like one of these fancy folk that I wanted to stitch on. So she's been on this, but as I'm stitching now, because I have more fancy folk that I'm stitching on, they're not always on a scroll frame because I think I have about 4 scroll frames. But I might put them in a Q-snap. So if I'm stitching on them in a Q-snap, I'll stitch on them in the Q-snap and I can move them around in the Q-snap, stitch on them. But once the stitching part is done, step 1 that I do when I'm stitching on a fancy person, then I'll switch them over. When I get to the beading, I will switch them over to a scroll frame. And then I'm ready to start beading. And the reason being is I don't want these clamps on these plastic clamps on my piece to go over a bead and crush or break a bead, or even just push it way over to the side and make my beads all crooked. I don't want that to happen, or crush them, break them, or anything like that. So because these use plastic clamps and I don't want those right on my beads, I'm even afraid if I take how I did here and have a piece of this felt, I still am afraid that this hard clamp could still mess up my beads underneath. So when I get to the point where I'm beading, I will switch my piece to a scroll frame. And then as I'm rolling it up, when I start beading in her, she has a lot of beading going on in the bottom of her dress. Well, how it's rolled up here, I might, what I do is I take pieces of like this felt that I have in here in the Q-snap, and I'll lay that in there and roll felt up in it. So then it's just rolled in. It's not clamped down hard, it's rolled, but felt in there between the material and the beads. So that as I'm rolling it up, because say if she had beads all through her and I had to roll her up and down a lot, I would put pieces of felt in here to keep the beads from getting too squished or digging into the fabric as it's being rolled. Because here the fabric is kind of tight. So a bead sticks up and then it could kind of make my fabric look puckery, if that makes any sense. So for beading, I do it in a scroll frame. Rest of the stitching on them, I can do it in a Q-snap. But once I get to the beading part, they get switched to a scroll frame for sure. So that hopefully is better, clearer than mud. Hopefully I did a decent enough explanation on that. So the other last little thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to give some shout outs. I've mentioned other channels that I love to watch that I have told you guys about in the past, like Heidi Stitching Faye, Lori Schicklone with Once Upon a Stitch, and there's like several others that I've already mentioned, but I wanted to mention 3 more people, and I actually mentioned her while I was talking earlier, and Chris, the Camping Stitcher. So if you want to check out Chris, the Camping Stitcher, she has just recently retired. So she says she's gonna have more time to do even more stitching than she does now, and she has some lovely stitching. And she stitches on a lot of the things that either I'm stitching on or I have that I'm getting ready to stitch on, that I want to stitch on sometime, or that I want to get that I don't have yet. So, and she has a saying, and I messaged her and I absolutely agree. She says how Brenda and Laura, Brenda and the Serial Stitcher, they say buy all the Blackbird. Well, she says purchase all the Plum Street. And I told her, I said, I absolutely agree with you. Just like I said earlier, I love Paulette Stewart's designs, the Plum Street collection stuff. And I absolutely agree with her. I could practically buy all the Plum Street, except for Paulette Stewart has a vast array of cross-stitch patterns that she has put out. If I bought them all, I know I wouldn't be able to stitch them all, but oh my gosh, so purchase all the Plum Street. Yes, yes, yes. So Chris the Camping Stitcher. The next one is Judy Stitching Bunny on Flosstube. I was watching her last video, and she's one that's been stitching for years and years and years, and she has some beautiful stitching. On her latest one that I was just watching maybe, 3 days ago, she was showing she's moving. So she's been packing up her house, packing up her craft room, packing up her closets, and she has been finding cross stitches that she started a while back, and she didn't realize she tucked them into a closet or a drawer, and she's pulling these treasures out. They are treasures. I'm telling you, you got to check out Judy Stitching Bunny. She's Stitching Bunny on Flosstube. She had some gorgeous, like they're big, beautiful samplers that are most of the way stitched, that she's like, why did I don't understand why I stopped stitching on these. So she said when she gets all moved into her new house, she wants to start stitching on those again. So definitely check out her last video. I'm telling you, her pieces are phenomenal and gorgeous. And then the last one I want to mention today, the last shout out I want to do is Lauren, the New Hampshire Stitcher. I was watching, I think it was her whip parade that she just finished, and her stitching, guys, Lauren, she stitches on a whole bunch of stuff that I love. So if you enjoy my channel, I try to steer you guys to people that stitch kind of a lot of the same things I stitch, because if you like what I'm stitching on, you're going to love what these ladies are stitching on, I'm telling you. So Lauren, the New Hampshire Stitcher, she's just the New Hampshire Stitcher. Her name's Lauren on Flosstube. And I think she's on Instagram too. I believe I'm following her on Instagram. Beautiful, beautiful stitching. And she just shows, she gets a lot of finishes. I don't know how she does it, because I show you what I finish, and it's like, that's my first FFO this year and my first finish for the year. So and it's halfway through the year. So I stitch on a lot of things. I get a lot of stitching done, but I don't get a lot of finishes. But I do occasionally, and I'm thinking one day as these things get moved farther along, you're going to start seeing more and more finishes, because I'm going to get where things are so close to a finish, I'm just going to pick it up and finish it, stitch it. So like one of the things, like this Autumn Angel, my plan is to pull her out this fall after I'm done with all my traveling and all that kind of stuff, and start working on her and seeing if I can get her to a finish. Because my stitching that I have left is just, I need to finish filling in. It's a lot of confetti stitches there. I think that's, and I left it to the last because it was confetti stitches. And I need to get that finished, do the back stitching in her face, put these metallic stitches in her dress, and then I can just beat her and she'll be done. Her stitching is 95% done, 98% done on her stitching. So I just need to get her finished up. So that is it for me for today. What I want to do, my plan is, because I will be traveling this summer and I won't probably get a whole lot of stitching, and I won't get a chance to film videos because I'm going to be on the road. And I'm going to be traveling with my mom. We're going to be traveling basically pretty much across country. I live in Virginia. We're going to be driving all the way out. Well, first we're going to, visit family in Texas. My dad was a native Texan. He was born and raised in a small town in Texas in the Panhandle, outside of Amarillo. So we're going to head out there and see family that I haven't seen in a long while. Then my daughter and her husband and kids moved out to Colorado Springs. Her husband's in the Army. So they're out there. They moved out there back right after Christmas. And I haven't been out there yet. So we're going to drive to Colorado. And then we're going to drive to, I want to see Mount Rushmore. I want to see, all of these sites, that a whole region of the states that I have not traveled to yet. So my mom and I are going to do a big loop across the USA. And we're going to drive, we'll probably be gone 3 weeks. And before that, in a couple of weeks, I'm leaving for a retreat that I have here, a local retreat to the mountains of Virginia. And get together with about 8 of my girlfriends, and we just get together and we craft. We have a crafting weekend, and well, it's actually going to be about 4 days. And like I said, then I get back from that. 2 days later, my mom flies in. She'll be here. We'll probably be a couple of days. Let her rest for a couple of days. Let us get our game plan all set and situated. And then we're hitting the road, and we'll be gone until towards the end of August. So it'll probably be, the next time I do a regular check-in video will probably be the end of August or in September. Depends on how much stitching I have. I am going to take a few small pieces with me, like maybe 3 small things probably, that if I get a chance in hotel rooms on the road, or if she's driving for a little while and I can stitch in the car, because I'll try to take something that's like on Ada, really easy to see, maybe not so many thread changes, and maybe just fill in. I'm going to try to pick a piece like that maybe I can work in as car stitching. So we'll see. But before, my plan is to try to do a mid-year whip parade. Now, when I do, I know it's going to be at least 2 parts, because there is no way I'm going to make you guys sit through. I'm not going to try to download a huge video, because you guys are my stitchy friends. So I know this is a no judgment zone, because you're not going to judge me on the amount of whips I have. I know it, because you guys are my stitchy friends. So I'm going to show you everything that I have. I might not show some of the old ancient whips that haven't been touched, because if you want to see them, you can go to previous whip parades. So I'm mostly going to be showing things that I actually have been working on in the past year. There might be 1 or 2 I end up pulling up that I don't realize I didn't touch at all in the year, but I probably have touched most of my whips. most of these up here. So I know I have quite a few, so it's going to be at least 2 parts, and I'm going to try to get that filmed before I leave for my retreat in a couple of weeks. So look for that, and I think that's it. So that way you guys will have something to watch, you know, because if you're missing me, if you need some eye candy, if you need to see some beautiful stitching stuff, you know, some beautiful charts, you can check out my whip parades, and maybe they'll keep you busy for the summer. I don't know. I know I feel bad that I'm going to be gone, and I'm not going to be posting probably for the summer. So I'm going to put up, my plan is to get whip parades put up in the, you know, get them filmed in the next week or two, and then get them posted out there. I might separate them like a week apart from each other, or a few days, 5 days apart from each other, so that it's not too much all at once. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what we do. You guys can let me know. You want to see 100 some odd whips? Bam, 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 bam. You know, or are you fine seeing 50 or 60 of them, and then the other 50, 60 of them on a second video? Because I got a lot. But you know what? I love them. I love them all. And I love the variety. And I love that I can, you know, I was stitching on Patriotic. I was stitching on what I consider a summer piece, my Shores of Hawk Run, because it's water, boats. I like that I can pull up stitches that maybe I got a lot of fill in, and maybe I need some easy stitching, something to do easy. So I got some that have just fill in, or I've got some that are a little bit more intricate that I can take time and work on, and you know, when I have the time to do that. I like that I can have, if I decide to do, I'm doing Christmas in July, I've got some options on some Christmas pieces. These are my Christmas whips over here. And that's probably how I'm going to divide my whip parade. I probably will do all of the non-seasonal stuff, which are my things up here, up on my top row. And I have one bin that has some in it. Then I will probably take the seasonal, the holiday stuff, then seasonals like my Christmas, my winter, my summer Patriotic, my fall, and my Halloween stuff, and show that all to you guys in a second video. That's my thinking. So, and I've got fancy ladies and things like that. I got all kinds of different things that I can show you guys. So I've been rambling long enough. I hope you guys are having a wonderful summer, and I'm wishing you guys the best. Love you guys, and thank you for all your sweet comments. Oh, speaking of that, I didn't get around to all of the comments off my last video. I apologize. I apologize. Maybe also this summer when I'm on the road, maybe at times I'll just have time to be, I don't know, scroll on my phone and check my comments. I don't know. It's just like the days get away from me. I don't know how they do, but they do. And like when I get finished here, it's going to be time for me to start cooking dinner. It's like, what? So I'm hoping you guys are having a happy summer, getting lots of fun stuff in, that you guys are blessed and healthy and happy. And until I see you guys next, I'm sending you guys a lot of love and hugs. Bye.